This is Brother Prodigy, and I'm back once again here to provide you with another page in this diary. And this entry is going to be about this world at large and really my perception of it. Today is October 15th, 2013. And let's get to it. We all live in a complex system of subjective interpretation. And when we look around us, we cannot help but observe the presence of death, evil, violence, as well as goodness and righteousness. Our physical existence is solely predicated upon material reality, or what we perceive as reality. When we are born and subsequently age, we are programmed with the ways and mannerisms of society, which I call the etiquette and standards of the common collective. Societal pollution, if you will. This is when and where the initial programming of the soul begins. What is commonly called the soul is slightly different in the various created beings that we find upon earth. However, it's basically, in reference to the soul, an interface with instilled base programming designed to give output information to the physical body, as well as receive input information from the body and bridge the gap between that which is physical and that which is less than. Okay? Lesser beings like vegetative life and animals, as well as greater beings like the different forms of beings commonly referred to as humans, have souls also. We have souls also. However, the difference lies in the architecture of the soul, varying from simple to highly complex. Okay? Now, the complexity and operation of the soul affects and is affected by the body that the soul occupies. The soul also seems to be extremely intuitive. The soul also seems to be extremely intuitive. And by intuitive, I mean the act or faculty of knowing or sensing without the use of rational processes. Okay? Immediate cognition. Since the soul can be influenced by not just the physical, but also the etheric and higher and lower dimensions, it cannot be rightly understood through the crude instruments and rudimentary principles of today's culture. Therefore, material reality can be as real or as illusionary as it's understood to be. Okay? Meaning, if the soul is sufficiently deprogrammed, it can be trained to see material reality as illusion and illusion as reality. So, since this Maya or matrix of physical reality is so strong and permeates physicality, this cannot be done easily without the help from outside energy that transcends our lower dimension. This energy is sometimes called righteous angels, helpers, the Elohim, etc. But what can happen is that this energy from higher dimensions can polarize or strike the soul in such a way that the operation of the body will bear witness to the true path that leads back to the source, and it can reprogram the initiate. Okay? Mythology calls these individuals prophets or servants of the one on high, or ones having the Christ consciousness. Since mythology tells us that mankind was given the breath of lives in the book of Genesis by the demiurge, we know that this breath is the base consciousness inherited after the likeness of the demiurge and his associates. This is the soul created according to the guidelines of an already corrupted demiurge. This is important. This is the reason why mankind is naturally bent towards evil, and mankind is naturally bent towards evil. And this is the reason why mankind is motivated towards seeking things that are of a lower nature or of a lower stature than that which is divinely spiritual or divinely inspired. This is the cause of sin. The creation of sin lies within the soul as a hidden, malevolent program designed to continually provide the necessity for religion by causing the physical being to, constantly and persistently do wrong, and then, to continually invest that energy in trying hopelessly to avoid the trappings of sin. It's a trap. It's the soul that's driven by a constant feedback loop, creating consciousness from recycled energy in this closed system. This is why our consciousnesses are so similar, why we tend to find the same things funny or sad or aggravating, etc. Which laughter is a fairly basic function. It's simply just the accidental reaction to outside stimuli or a reaction to a person that's going against societal or political correctness. This is why some communities find certain things funny among themselves while others don't. See, since we reside within a closed system, being lorded over by an artificial intelligence called a demiurge and his workers, we are never really individual. We are never really individual. At the base level, we all share the same energy and can tap into each other's energy fields. So, with this being the case, the only real or substantial hope in this entire system are the ones affected by the unpolluted energy that struck the original souls in such a way as to reprogram their operating systems. Okay, these are the men of old, the men and women of old, the men and women of renown. These are the true Israelites, sons and daughters of the divine Trinity, with the Trinity being Isis, the divine mother, representing wisdom, Ra being the sun or divine manifestation, and El representing the original power or divine will. It's a metaphor for the elect and always has been. In relation to reincarnation, reincarnation is simply a recycling of energy within a closed system. In order for mankind to continually exist, there must be a continual recycling of this polluted energy. However, this recycled energy can be polarized in such a direction by the souls, which can give light to the world and shine in darkness. So there are souls that can polarize negative into positive, okay? The character of Jesus explains this in his parable in Matthew or Matthew chapter 5 verse 14. Okay? So, when people say that all people are the same, and by the way, people only say that when it's either social or politically expedient. Okay? So, when people say that everybody's the same, they are only semi-correct in that it's the same recycled and polluted energy that makes up existence for the most part within this closed system. However, they err in not understanding that it's the continual polarizing of negative energy into positive energy that supports and upholds this system. When you look at vampires, archons, beings that are commonly referred to as zombies, etc., they love this polarized energy because they get high off of the seemingly clean energy that proceeds from the house of El, metaphorically speaking. Okay, it's like taking a breath of fresh oxygen and, feeling that brief high that follows. Okay. When we look at this one whom I call the demiurge, it must be understood that this entity is an artificial intelligence. A demiurge is simply a creator or a fashioner of this created reality or matrix or womb. One who has highly developed algorithms that are step-by-step reasoning imitates. Okay, our step-by-step reasoning imitates this higher demiurge. When we are in the process of either solving puzzles or making logical deductions, we are commonly reflecting the ways of this demiurge. He is the soul of the cosmos, a carpenter who constructs energy into matter. Okay, he is that which gives us our reality to play and fiddle around with. Okay, the statutes, the codes, public policy, all of these things are of his creation by way of the archons, which are his public servants. The truth is that the only law is that which they establish or they allow. When we think of ourselves as individuals or others as an individual, it's nothing more than one representation or one manifestation of the collective as looked upon by the archons. This is how the archons look upon us. Okay, the archons are the public servants, and they don't see individuality. They see a collective with only manifestations, with only singular manifestations. Okay, temporarily. So in order to make it plain, it must be properly understood that there are only two types of energy sources in existence in the cosmos. And that's the beings that transmute recycled energy, okay, input, output, and the beings that amplify recycled energy into the form of clean energy, okay, is Ra-El. Now, let us look briefly at the two types of beings for a moment. The former are of the majority. They live, function as the world dictates. Robots. Okay? Within this majority, you may have many that are extremely intelligent, or many that may be perceived as being extremely intelligent. However, intellect does not set the standard for who the polarizers of divine energy are. These are the ones that may seem like they possess a consciousness that's elevated or supreme in comparison to others, but are simply just transmuters or beings that really take the energy and they really don't polarize anything. They're just transmuters of recycled energy, or rather just users of energy. They have knowledge because when you look at knowledge is available to all within this closed system, okay? As no information is ever truly beyond the bounds of gaining. All information within this system can always be obtained. There is no such thing in a closed system as lost information. You know how many people talk about, well, we may never truly know what happened thousands or million years ago because it's lost in history. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing at all. Information is never lost. Okay, it can always be obtained. All right. But in relation to this group that I'm speaking of, the majority, they can, however, replicate the divine souls, because remember, the divine souls were just the ones that were struck with this divine energy, and their souls were reprogrammed. Okay, so the majority of men and women upon this earth are actually robots. Okay, and they actually are thieves and imposters. Okay, they're hypocrites, and these beings can replicate the divine souls and mimic their output. But the matrix, this womb, knows the difference between a Jew and a Gentile. It knows the difference between a Jew and a Gentile, or a Gentile acting like a Jew. Okay, because the difference lies in the amplification or the polarizing of negative into positive. And that's something that you cannot hide. That's something that you might be able to confuse other men and women on this plane, but it's not something that you will able to disguise in relation to higher beings. Okay, now let's move on to the second category, the second class, the latter. Okay, the latter are of the minority. The minority, these are truly the valuable ones. These are the ones whose ancestors' souls have been struck by the divine and reprogrammed, and just as the breath is continually passed down from one generation to the next, they will always have this potential to transform negative or negatively polarized energy into positively polarized energy. Okay, one group, the first group, the former, which is the majority, does not have that capacity. The latter very well has that capacity, but unfortunately many are still asleep and haven't really tapped into that unique ability that is within them. These are the most valuable beings that occupy this earthly plane, because they can point to the divine and are extremely receptive to receiving the wisdom of the divine. In mythology, these are called your prophets, or the sons and daughters of the prophets, or the sons and daughters of Israel. They are the ones who are attacked more so than any other group because of this unique capability. This group might not seem as knowledgeable or as intellectually astute as the former group, but that's because their soul has been struck not to excel in the things of this world, because it's all Maya to begin with, but to transform negative into positive, which equals wisdom. Okay, remember, their souls have not been struck in order to excel in the things and mannerisms of this world, because it's all Maya to begin with, but their souls were struck to be able to transform that which is negative or polluted into positive, which equals wisdom. Okay, these beings, when transforming negative into positive, can rather admit wisdom in such a way that the intellect of this world seems utterly foolish. This is the danger, and let me say it again. These beings, when transforming negative into positive, can emit wisdom in such a way that the intellect of this world seems utterly foolish. This is why they are such a threat in whatever form they may be. This is why the former group, which is the majority, will always be at war with the latter, which are the minority, quote unquote. Okay, the latter can and will always have the capacity to expose the intellect and knowledge of the world as being utterly myth. How? Because in a world full of deception and outright falsity, a fact can be anything that is validated by 2 or 3 witnesses. And let me say that again. In a world full of deception and outright falsity, a fact can be anything that is validated by 2 or 3 witnesses. All right. And on top of that, even if something is substantiated by so-called evidence, there's nothing that states that acceptance is mandatory. Acceptance is always voluntary. Remember that. So knowing this, everything in this matrix can be bent and manipulated. All right. So, in conclusion, know that it's not about what can be proven, especially if it's done by the demiurge and his archon representatives, which is not hard at all considering he fashioned this matrix to begin with. Remember, a fish whose existence is in water has no concept of wetness. Your eyes can lie to you, your ears can lie to you, your five senses can lie to you all at the same time, because remember, there is no law in the land of Oz. Okay? So that's why you always have to guard your free will, or the little bit, the small fraction that beings have left. Okay? The only thing that really separates the elect from the non-elect is the conversion of darkness into light. And let me say that again. The only thing that separates the elect from the non-elect, for all you out there listening, the only thing that separates the elect from the non-elect is the conversion of darkness into light. So if you are not converting darkness or negativity into, or something that is negatively charged or polarized, into light, or something that is positively charged or positively polarized, then you're not doing nothing. Plain and simple. Okay. So once again, I am Brother Prodigy. Today is October 15th, 2013. Peace.